Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, everybody. It's wonderful to have you with us for the first Shabbat of 2021. I think we all take a collective sigh of relief to know that 2020 is finally over and not a moment too soon. And so we welcome this new year and we welcome our company together. Those of you who are joining us on our Zoom conference and those of you who are joining us through our streaming services, we welcome you all to our worship online. Hine ma tovu manayim sheverachim gam yachad. 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 Sheverachim gam yachad. How wonderful it is to be together with our brothers and our sisters in this new year of 2021. We welcome you all, our synagogue members whose support we are so grateful for, especially as we sustain ourselves in these dark days. And for those of you who are not yet our members, I invite you to check out our website, capecodsynagogue.org, and find out more about our wonderful organization and encourage you to become a part of it. We begin our worship with the lighting of our Shabbat candles for this Shabbat Vayechi. For those of you following along in the flip book online or the paper book, we're in the Mishkan Tefillah for Shabbat. You can find it on page 2. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Our Shabbat evening Kiddush is on page 5 of the Mishkan Tefillah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created, and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, and to bring that vision to life. I understand we're having some sound difficulties. I'm going to try again. Hopefully that's all better now. I'm sure somebody will let me know. We turn in the Mishkan Tefillah to page 12, L'chu Neranana. L'chu Neranana, L'chu Neranana, L'chu Neranana l'Adonai. L'chu Neranana, L'chu Neranana, L'chu Neranana l'Adonai. Naria l'tzur yish'enu nekadma, Panav b'todah. Naria l'tzur yish'enu, Mizmirot naria lo. L'chu neranana, L'chu neranana, L'chu neranana l'Adonai. L'chu neranana, L'chu neranana, L'chu neranana l'Adonai. On page 20, we welcome the Sabbath bride with the words of Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemu tiferet v'letehila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala yalalai 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 Nei Shabbat nekabela. נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם מסוכה סוף מעשה למחשבה תחילה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 משבת נקבלה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 משבת נקבלה מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה התנערי מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי קורבה אל נפשי גאלה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 פני שבת נקבלה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורי קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה לכדוני לקראת קלה יללי 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 בני שבת נקבלה I invite you all to some quiet moments on this first evening of the year 2021 as we welcome into our hearts a sense of peace, rest, and blessing on this holy day of Shabbat. This week's Torah portion by Yechi covers a great deal of territory. Not least significant is the deathbed blessing of our father Jacob upon all of his children. Simeon and Levi among them, notable for their extremism. The dangers of extremism are particularly great at the height of a nation's power, when a united and strong policy can easily be influenced by the headstrong policies of two mighty tribes into an excessive display of zeal. But this is not the case when the nation is scattered and divided in exile, suffering from persecution and reviled by others. Then the Jew, peddling his wares from house to house, stands in need of that ingredient of zeal and passion to be able to cherish his national self-respect and look down on his tormentors. The Holy One, blessed be he, did his people a kindness by scattering the tribes of Simeon and Levi among the rest of the house of Israel, so that all its members should share some of that badly needed courage and zeal and Jewish pride, even after the destruction of its state. On page 26, Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash meraba Be'alma tivrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon Uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael Bagala, bagala Ubizman kariv Ve'imeru Amen Yehesh meraba mevarach Ve'alam ulalme almaya Yitbarach, Yitbarach Ve'ishtabach Vitpa'ar vitramam vitnase Vitadar vitale vitalal Shemede kudisha Brichu La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbachata v'nechemata Ta'amiran be'alma V'imeru Amen. I understand we're having some sound issues. I'm going to go ahead and try and adjust that again.
No sound. There's no sound.
And we're trying again. How about that? All right. La 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 Baruch hu et Adonai Hamevorach Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Hamevorach לעולם ועד. המבורך, המבורך, לעולם ועד. On page 31. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. Ahavat Olam on page 32. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadeta Al Kain Adonai Eloheinu B'shochmeinu Uvkumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha U'v'mitzvotecha Le'olam va'ed Ki heim chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu Uvahem nege yomam v'layla yomam v'layla Va'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael. We join in the words of the Shema beginning on page 34. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha V'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha b'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam Al mezuzot betecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, להיות lachem le'Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then we shall rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Micha Mocha is on page 40. Mi chamocha bailim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar v'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele, malchutecha ra'u v'necha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe, ze eli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov ugelo miad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai gal Yisrael. Hashkivenu on page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu l'chaim u'l'shalom me'ata v'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. The Shamru V'nei Yisrael on page 44. V'shameru V'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat L'dorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. Our Shabbat evening Amidah begins on page 46. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer, Umoshia Umagein, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei metim atarav lehoshia. Mashiv haruach umorid Hashem, Michalkel Chaim b'chesed, Mechaye metim berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Michamocha Baal givurot, Umido melach, Melech meimit umechaye, umatmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lahachayot metim. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hametim. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukedoshim becho yom yahalalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. On page 55, disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of humans. Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat which gives us the delusion of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rote prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu, Amcha Yisrael, Utefilatam Ahava Tikabel, Utehile Ratzon Tamid Avodat Yisrael Amecha, Baruch Ata Adonai, She'otcha Levadcha, B'yir'ah Na'avod. On page 59, when we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you should take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch Ata Adonai, Hatov Shimcha, Ulecha Na'eh Lehodot. Shalom Rav on page 60. We pray for peace. Shalom Rava Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael. Bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. I invite you to some quiet moments now on this frozen and dark evening in January as we kindle the lights of our hearts and speak the words that we alone know. Ose shalom bimroma ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. Shabbat Shalom. Today is January 1st. You know, New Year's on a calendar do not have any magical power. They are but an arbitrary division between days, marking the Earth's position in orbit around the sun. While significant astronomically and seasonally, a change of year has no great effect on human events. We keep rolling along with our business just as before. This week's Torah portion, Vayechi, ironically named Then He Lived, marks the death of our last patriarch, Jacob. His death has me thinking of the stories of so many who have died this year from our modern day plague. We think of all the famous people that we've lost, and perhaps they grab our attention. We feel their loss. But I have found myself more often reading the stories about the rest of us. The New York Times has had daily obituaries, just titled Those We've Lost. Everyday people whose lives were cut short in this last terrible year. And their losses were just as painful to their families and friends as those of the notables who passed on in 2020. I was looking for an appropriate parable for our time, and the person of Nachum Ish Gamzu from the Talmud might just be the one. Listen to this story. This is from Tractate Ta'anit in the Talmud. They said about Nachum of Gamzu that he was blind in both eyes. Both his arms were amputated, both his legs were amputated, and his entire body was covered in boils. And he was lying in a dilapidated house, and the legs of his bed were placed in buckets of water so that ants should not climb onto him, as he was unable to keep them off of himself in any other manner. Once his students sought to remove his bed from the house and afterwards remove the rest of his possessions. He said to them, "Banai, my sons, remove the vessels first, and afterward remove my bed, because I can assure you that as long as I am in this house, the house will not fall." And indeed, they removed the vessels, and afterward they moved his bed, and immediately the house collapsed. His students said to him, "Rabbi, since you are evidently a holy, righteous man, as we've just seen, that as long as you were in your house it didn't fall, why has this terrible suffering befallen you?" He said to them again, "Banai, my sons, I brought it upon myself." Nachum of Gamzu then told them this story. "As once I was traveling along the road to my father-in-law's house, and I had with me a load distributed amongst 3 donkeys, one of food, one of drink, and one of delicacies. A poor person came and stood before me in the road, saying, 'My rabbi, sustain me. And I said to him, wait until I unload the donkey, after which I'll give you something to eat. However, I had not managed to unload the donkey before his soul left his body. I went, and I fell upon his face and said, may my eyes, which had no compassion for your eyes, be blinded. May my hands, which had no compassion on your hands, be amputated. May my legs, which had no compassion on your legs, be amputated. And my mind did not rest until I said, may my whole body be covered in boils. Nachum of Gamzu prayed that this suffering might atone for his failure. His students said to him, even so, woe to us that we have seen you in this wretched state. And he said to them, woe is to me if you had not seen me in this state, as this suffering atones for me, and I might add, acts as a warning for you. 2020 was without qualification a brutal year. What I found perhaps most breathtaking was the selfishness and the sense of entitlement that so many chose to call an exercise of personal freedom. To put it in terms of Nachum, tens, if not hundreds of millions of us were each so obsessed with their own tasks and burdens, so focused on needing to finish whatever was before us prior to thinking of anyone else. And we have seen the horrific effects of this attitude and this self-centeredness. 350,000 people died last year. 350,000 people who simply did not need to. Each of them, in effect, like the beggar before Nachum Ish Gamzu. We were unable or simply unwilling to do what it took to keep them from dying right before us. Our worries were about commerce and profit, just as in Nachum's case, and they too often came first. Our change of calendar year won't change that. Nachum Gamzu fell to the ground in total repentance of the loss of one life that resulted from his sense of self-importance. He lived the rest of his life as a human example and a potent warning to all who might see him. What will we do? What will we do confronted with the hundreds of thousands who have died? Will it be enough for us to put down our weapons of political total war? Will it be enough to once again see the humanity in each other? Will it be enough for us to gain clarity, to recognize the difference between freedom, foolishness, and self-centeredness? I pray that this year of 2021 will bring a sense of enlightenment, a sense of honor, and perhaps even a sense of shame to each of us. Shabbat Shalom. We offer a prayer of healing this evening. Misha Berach. Our prayers are with, Malka Freda, Bat Frega Brucha, Mary Ellen Harvey, Wally Mahoney, Don White, Wolfie, Janice Smith, Amy Fiorino, Sarah Bat Bracha Leah, Lucas Vincent, Nechama Basha Bat Elka, Leah, Harav Reuven Shlomo Ben Leah, Megan Bat Florence Ve'ema, Suzanne and Bob Kittredge, Chana Bat Bracha, Heather Strauss, Kathy Gigante Brown, Cinia Pinchbach, Evelyn Payne, Thomas Potter, Carol, Gloria Fitz, Steve Sugarman, David Cutler, Ronald Montacone Jr., the Garrison family, Myra Vachon, Paul Reese, Andre Hari Gutter, Shia Ben Shmuel, Len Jaffe, Ava Stein, Evelyn Silver, Paula Corrick, Bill Trone, Kathy Leonard, Isaac Clayman, Jerry Gerhardt, Harriet Aronson, Bryna Curley, Stephen Silverstein, Adam Lipsky, Mary Jane Bush, Isaac Moshe Ben Shimon, Robert Arnowit, Violet Lavenda, Cantor Jody Shaxman, Elaine Gardner, Norm Steinberg, David Murad, Rose Moskowitz, Marty Israel, Stanley Shaw, Blanca Discar, Avram Ben Zlata. Lois Gordon. Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha mimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. May God send blessing and healing to every soul in need. We say Amen. We continue on page 284 with the words, 282 with the words of Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, latet gerula liotze breshit, shelo asanu kegoye ha'aratzot, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. As we have closed out a year marked by so much loss on our secular calendars, a thought as to the nature of each of those losses. The words of Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder, lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall and forests Small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality bound to them takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. As we turn to page 294 for the words of Kaddish, we remember those taken from us in years past at this season. Yahrzeit occurs in this week for Rose Brovsky, Morris Casper, Elaine Finkelman, Michael Freeland, Ruth Garnick, Marie Goldberg, Larry Johnson, Dora Lavenda, William Stone, Marvin Zakon, Jenny Zoll. We grieve with Betty Bystock for the recent loss of her husband Lee. Yikadal Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Be'alma Divrach Yerutev Yamlich Malchutei B'chayechon Uvyomechon U'b'chayei B'chol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala Bizman Kariv Yimru Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mivarach Le'olam U'lalmei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei d'kodesha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran b'alma v'yimru amen yehi shalama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen Oseh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. May God, who causes peace to reign in the heavens above, bring a measure of that peace and comfort to all who grieve. And we say, Amen. It's my pleasure to welcome our President, Jen Rako.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom. Happy New Year. Happy secular New Year. It is nice to be in 2021 and nice to see all of you here, those on Zoom and those on our live stream. We have a quiet week coming up. I'm going to just go over the schedule, and everyone should have gotten their bulletin, those that receive email today, for all of the January events. And I'll just go over a few highlights that are coming up later in the month. So tonight we have Shabbat, and tomorrow morning Shabbat services with Torah study at 11 o'clock. The same link that those here on Zoom used to get here today will work for tomorrow morning. And then we have on Tuesday, my weekly Join Jen at 10. I love seeing people to drop in, just no agenda, open office hours. Come if you like for a minute or for longer. Always nice to see you. I still link every week, but it's the same every week. So if you find any email with the link, it will work. And then on Thursday, we'll have Torah study, 11:30. Rabbi sends the link usually the day before to members. And the next thing you know, we'll be back at Friday night Shabbat. I'm going to point out a few things that are coming up this month in January. On January 24th, there'll be something called the Matzo Diaries. It's a multi-synagogue benefit, which is really cool. We'll be joining 3 other synagogues, and you'll be getting information. There's information already in the bulletin, and I'm sure you'll be receiving some email blasts about that as well. That's the 24th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then that same week, on Wednesday, January 27th, there'll be the Tu B'Shvat Seder at 7 o'clock. More information will come to members with the Zoom links. And there'll also be a Havdalah service at the end of the month on January 30th at 6:30. So those things are a few weeks away, and we'll send you lots of reminders, and I'll remind you as well on Friday evenings. But I think the most important thing of my announcements tonight is that January, this month, is really, I think, our toughest month so far during this crisis of COVID-19. Hospitals are very full on Cape Cod. It's just really bad out there. So I know many of you, most of you have been extremely diligent, and just keep it up, be safe. It's the number one thing for you to remember. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We close tonight with song from the words of Psalm 34. Who is the one eager for life, who desires years of good fortune? Then guard your tongue from evil, your lips from deceitful speech. Shun evil and do good. Seek integrity and pursue it. Mi ha'ish hechafetz chaim ohev yamin lir'oto mi ha'ish hechafetz chaim ohev yamin lir'oto nitzor l'shoncha merah ושפתיך מדבר מרמה סור מרע ועשה טוב בקש שלום ברודפהו מי האיש החפץ חיים אוהב ימים אוהב ימים לראות טוב. Shabbat Shalom and Erev Tov, a good evening to those of you who are joining us on our streaming service.